Shop, enter, and win weekly.
Never too early, never too late to recharge and hydrate. Get your daily dose the right way. Grab an Oasis, now why wait? Never too early, never too late to recharge and hydrate. Get your daily dose the right way. Grab an Oasis, now why wait? The greatest, the safest, Oasis for sure. Oasis, it's purer than pure.
Welcome back. You're viewing The Right Fit, and we're talking about safety with members.
How to help them, right? So palliative care, we want the patient to live longer and the patient to live better, right? You know, that is the watchwords we like to talk about, right, Nadeem?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to this live show, the Da'wah show with Brother Mirza. For now, inshallah, we'll have some other hosts as we go along.
I am your host, Dr. Abdul Shahan Shah Qasim, and this program
For the everyday lowest prices on all grocery items, trust Low Cost Supermarket for the widest variety of quality products at low prices. Freshly picked fruits and vegetables, healthy products for your well-being, high quality meat cuts, and a warm and friendly service. Low Cost Supermarket, Sun and Main Road, Cunupia.
Assalamu alaikum. May the peace and blessings of God be with you. You are viewing The Right Fit on IBN, the Islamic Broadcasting Network. I am Bibi Ajoda, your host, former lecturer at Corinth Teachers College and retired school supervisor 3 with the Ministry of Education. Join us as we discuss several topics, including education, environment, health, and technology. This platform aims to educate and inform our viewers through our questions and discussions with subject matter experts. Today, we are joined by another subject matter expert, Ms. Shivani Ramcharita, a PhD candidate at the University of the West Indies, St. Augustine. She explores how climate change is affecting the coastal community of Icacos. Shivani, welcome to The Right Fit.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you here. But for our viewers out there, we want to hear who is Shivani and what are you doing?
So, hello everyone. My name is Shivani Ramcharita. As Mrs. Ajoda said, I am a PhD candidate at the University of the West Indies in Urban and Regional Planning, Faculty of Engineering. So that's a bit about my work. I am also a teacher at a secondary school in Trinidad, and I teach geography, environmental science at Cape level, as well as tourism. I am also at the University of the West Indies, one of the advocates for community engagement student leaders, and I am very involved with the environment and trying to get education out there for anybody to learn.
Excellent, and this is what the Right Fit is all about, to educate the public here. Hence, while you are here to tell us about your work down in Cedros, all right? And let us hear about, understand a little bit about your research. What inspired you to focus on Icacos, one of Trinidad's most remote place, and yet vulnerable?
So actually, what had inspired me to focus on the Icacos region is what had happened in 2018. And you would see in that photograph, this was in March 2018, 8 houses had gone down in Bamboo, which is located in Cedros. And looking at it, you might think, well, it's just coastal erosion. But the rate at which coastal erosion has happened has been informed by climate change. And this is one of the impacts of climate change. And this was seen in the community of Bamboo. My focus was in Icacos later on because it is what we describe as a dynamic coast. It is changing a lot over our history, our time. So if you go today, what you might see next week or next month or 5 years from now might be different.
Wow, that is quite rapid, isn't it?
It is.
And then Icacos, for those who don't go down way down south, you show them the map where Icacos is on the map so they would understand where it is, right? And you talk about the terms of geography, the culture, and the environment, what happened there at Icacos. Now tell us how this relates to the central question your research is trying to answer.
So my research is trying to determine how can climate change education, together with the support of community members, inform planning for our country. Usually what we see happen in the photograph, that may happen in other locations. And we need to take a more strong approach.
A proactive approach.
A proactive approach, you said it correctly, towards planning for our future and how we are going to move towards improving the lives of the people who live in our country.
And hopefully your research paper, when you are finished, you could share it with the Ministry of Planning, Disaster Management, because knowledge is worth sharing so they can plan or do something about it. And during the discussion, we'll see several parts of Icacos and how you went about doing your research. I know you're not concluding as yet. All right? Based on your findings, and you saw one picture there, how climate change impacts are already seen in Icacos?
So we are seeing the climate change impacts in terms of coastal erosion. We are also seeing an increase in the temperature of the water, and this is increasing sargassum. Sargassum likes warm waters in order to thrive. So this is one reason. And these are the effects that we are seeing. On this slide, you would see that the San Jose Lagoon, which is actually the wetland, was dried in May 2024, and this was 2 years ago. This wasn't what we expected to happen.
Wow.
There has also been a lot of incidences of flooding because of the increased rainfall that we are having in Icacos. And sargassum, which continues to be a problem in terms of tourism, has now been impacting not only the Icacos area, but for example, Mayaro, Manzanilla, even Toco to some extent. And all of this would impact fisher folk as well.
So one impact on the other, and it's all due to climate change. Yeah. And I mean, we didn't define what is climate change, but just for viewers out there, what are we talk about flooding, temperatures, some of the other impacts of climate change. I think you have a slide with that coming up that it will show other impacts of climate change. Now, residents there in Icacos are affected by these, I suppose. How have these changed their lives?
So in terms of their lives, it has made people a bit uneasy, because when you think about climate change, you might think that is something foreign to us. It is something scientists speak about. You may not think that it is at the local or the community level. However, what we are noticing is that the impacts are being right for the people, and this is what my research focuses on. Globally, the persons who have to deal with climate change is the individual and the household levels. So we need to have a bit more support in terms of how we all move together, because persons, they may feel helpless. A lot of the persons who would have lived in Icacos, their community would have been lost. Some of the homes would have been lost over time. And you would see as well in the slides the rapid rate of erosion and how this has impacted the area.
And as I said, other communities, and we had a previous program where we dealt with climate change, and we saw all the changes in Mayaro. Quite devastating, if I may say so. And you mentioned there how, day-to-day life, you are interacting with the community there. So let's hear a little bit, how have these changes affected the daily lives in the residents there?
So Icacos is a fishing and agricultural based community. So this has impacted persons in terms of their livelihoods. When they try to make money in order to survive, I have to say survive because it's a low income rural community, we see that they have to take their boats further out to sea because of the sargassum, because of the area itself. There have been a loss of areas with mangroves over time. And you would see in the map, we have Icacos located in the southern part of Trinidad, indicated by the star. Coral Point, where we had a lot of the coconut estates known as Constance Estate, they have lost a lot of land. However, Icacos Point, we have gained land. The area of interest right now for everyone is Galfa, where there was the earthquake activity in Venezuela, and this has led to the creation of those mud islands, and that is located where you see the pink star. So it shows that there are areas we see changes, we expect things to occur. However, the rapid rate of these changes are what has put Icacos into the spotlight.
And I would like you to go back and show them that slide, because you had the yellow line, and explain what these two lines indicate. I mean, they probably could not have read the legend inside there. So you're seeing some places going in and some out.
Yes.
Explain for our audience there.
So that is a wonderful question. So what we have, I would have mapped the coastline from 1942 and compared it to 2014, because that was some of the information I had available. 1942 we would have used from the war aerial photographs, and what it shows is that the coastline of Icacos has been very, very active in terms of the changes. So my first area of focus with the photograph was bamboo. But then when you look at bamboo located to the north of the map, or the top of the map, the top right-hand side, you would see that there isn't much changes. But when you go past Columbus Bay to Coral Point, Punta del Arenal, Icacos Point, there has been a lot of changes in a short period of time, meaning our lifetime. So persons who would have been born there in 1942, who are now in their 90s, they can recall seeing a lighthouse. They would have lived in an area which is now the sea. They would have had a football field. I spoke to some residents. There was a football field, a cemetery, the lighthouse. One of them said he would have walked from where the coast is right now 10 minutes away to reach to his house, and that is now underwater.
His house?
His house. So they would have moved over time to closer to the health center on land that they are renting. So
Wow.
this also affects not only in terms of their livelihoods, but their sense of home. Their sense of home is now underwater, and we like to say that Trinidad and Tobago is safe from climate change, but
It's absolutely not safe.
it's not. It's
We are
not.
seeing the evidence there, as you say, and that brings me to my next question. Any surprising data points from your research that the public should know?
Well, what is really interesting, normally we talk about erosion, and erosion is where the land is being taken by the sea. According to one of the fisher folk, he said that the sea eats the land. However, with Icacos, at Icacos Point, there has been the gain of land, which is also known as accretion, or the buildup of land over time. So within the past 20 years or so, you would see more houses. We have informal settlements, meaning persons would have gone and built without any planning permission or approvals. But that is to show you the nature of the coast. On one side we are losing land, on the next side we are gaining land.
Okay, and that's a real interesting point there. And you talk about the livelihoods, you know, people there. I mean, it's a community, it's a village. And how are these sectors being affected by rising sea level, change in rainfall?
So because we have the agricultural areas, what we have is the coconut estates are being impacted by less rainfall. So speaking to the residents, one of the persons, he shucks the coconut in terms of shelling it, and he said that over time he finds that it is harder to shell the coconuts because there is less moisture. And that was so interesting to me because this is a person who is living in the area who has noticed that subtle small change, in addition to them having to bring now more water, because we have persons with animals. We have deciduous breeding units. So if you all go to Icacos at certain points in time, you will see a lot of cows crossing the roads.
Yes.
So that is one thing as well. And we also have saltwater intrusion, meaning that when we have the water table dropping lower, salt water will come in to fill its place. And that will result in our areas with fresh water being less, or it will mix with the salt water, so you can no longer plant crops.
That will affect the crop negatively.
It would. And that will also impact not only the persons who plant, but the ones who have those coconut oil production happening in the area as well.
So the whole economy is affected by, and this is why we are talking about it for the audience out there.
Yes.
And I want, you have a slide with the slide 6, I think, and I'm too sure if that was related to what you spoke about.
Yes, so slide 6. So what we have happening there, those are the effects of climate change. So flooding, yes, in November, but we also have the drought conditions happening in certain areas.
So two different extremes of temperature causing
Yes.
a difference in, for the farmers, the coconut growers out there. What does your research show about the future of the food security in Icacos?
Well, as a result of the saltwater intrusion that may occur, what we also have happening is that the crops that people would want to plant, those would be impacted. So things that require fresh water, we would have less of it. So for example, like tomatoes or pumpkin, because I saw one person planting like a kitchen garden, and you would see it looking dry, and you would think, oh, that's because it doesn't have enough water. But then the soil itself is being impacted. And what we have in terms of food security is that the fisher folk, because they have to go further out to sea, their catch would be less. because Iquitos is located on the doorstep of Venezuela.
We know that.
So as a result of that, the area that persons could fish beyond the Soldado Rock, that is an area of a no-go zone. So that will also impact how many fishes can be caught, the type of catch they will have, as well as in terms of their own food security, what they would be able to afford. Because food security lends itself to people not only having access to food, but being able to have the purchasing power to buy what they require.
So if they can't plant, they can't buy, they can't grow, and it is a cycle coming down.
Yes, it would be.
And, you know, we're talking about the community in Iquitos. How are young people in the community responding to this?
So having spent some time in the community, because I would have done a variety of workshops, I have noticed that the young people are more moving to the outer areas. They are migrating outwards for jobs, and speaking to their parents who are the fisher folk as well, they are saying that they are not sure or not certain of what can be done in the region of Iquitos for young people who are trying to make a life. So it is a sad state of affairs, but persons are moving out of the area, especially the youth.
Wow. And we need to have some kind of sustainability, but that's why hopefully your research and the results would help to develop some sort of mitigation plan or some kind of, to keep them there, to get jobs and food security going.
Yes.
And a traditional community-based practice helped. What do you think will help the residents cope with environmental changes?
Iquitos has a lot going for it in terms of its beauty, its scenery, the people, the community members. They are a very close-knit community, and if persons are involved in the marketing of the area as being similar to how we have Caroni Swamp, we have the Iquitos wetlands.
Right.
We also have a lot of areas of interest. For example, with the Galfa mud volcano that we have currently, that is an opportune time for persons to get themselves educated about it a bit more. They could act as tour guides. We have one of the residents of Iquitos. He is Mr. Neil from Southwestern Adventures. He has been doing a lot to bring Galfa to the fore. However, it's not only Galfa alone. If we look at the YouTube videos that they would share about the area,
Right.
It's about the community itself, their way of life, their interest in places to visit. And when we had done the Iquitos BioBlitz, where they went and they looked at the different plant and animal species, they found that to be the most biodiverse region in Trinidad.
Wow.
So they are right now at the cusp of getting so many things done because the spotlight is on the region. Now it's just about getting things in place for Iquitos to move forward.
And you say UE is involved with that, because in my next question, if you had examples of local innovation, given the situation or the scenario there, you need to have innovative measures taking place. And you mentioned the guy who looking at the volcano, what happened there. Any other innovation or any new techniques that you have there as you are visiting?
So in terms of the new techniques, a lot of persons have ideas, which is what my research would have focused on, to hear the inputs of the community members. But in terms of the innovation away from, let's say, coconut to another crop or something like that, I have not seen it. And that may require more research just to know what is on the ground and how we can all move together.
Okay. And you find local, well, you talk about the local innovation there. How can policy makers better integrate community wisdom into national climate strategies?
So it is so interesting because what we have, community wisdom, abounds in Iquitos, because a lot of the persons are involved in fishing, they are involved in agriculture, they share lived experiences. They know exactly when the sargassum will come. They know exactly how the area has changed over time. They know where certain mangrove species are. They may not know the scientific names, but they have this wealth of knowledge, this wealth of experience. So when they come together with scientists and policymakers, they will be able to determine the best way forward for the community. And this is what we call, in terms of their context, their area, the area of focus being Icacos, we can now have area plans for Icacos. And Canary, which is one of the other non-governmental organization, civil society type group, they have done research on the area as well. So they would have come up with a community resilience plan.
Right.
So all of this would inform what can be done.
A lot of information, and hopefully they would have gathered those information you spoke about from the older people. They don't know the species of mangrove, whatever, but just to identify and map and put it in a database. Hopefully we would not lose it before, because as the people get older, we lose it. They would know the history, so to speak, of Icacos as what is happening. And
Yes.
I know you are doing your research there. What tools or methods are you using for your PhD research? And I think we have a slide coming up.
Yes. So my research focuses on planning with the community to deal with the impacts. So
Okay.
I am bringing in climate change education as well as how we plan for the community. So in Trinidad and Tobago, we would have had the Planning and Facilitation of Development Act, and this was in 2013. And part of it is to bring local area plans into focus. And this includes the community-based approaches as well. So when we bring persons together, they may not know of the actual impacts of climate change, but then when you say, so have you seen the sargassum increase, or have you seen the loss of land in the area, they may know what it is then. So my research tries to bring together climate change education with community planning, with multiple agencies as well, because it's a participatory approach, meaning we all collaborate, we work together. So there are government agencies, people in the community, non-governmental organizations, community-based groups, and all of us come together to come up with a plan.
Definitely, because some research was done already. So, you know, you get your data and you get, as you say, tap into the resources you have there now with terms of people, and
Yes.
to map it. And I'm sure you're collecting information from the people and some pictures if they have, or whatever they have to contribute to this development or seeing the loss of coastal areas. Now, we talk about vulnerability in Icacos, but how does Icacos compare with other vulnerable coastal areas in Trinidad and Tobago?
So in terms of Trinidad and Tobago, we have similar instances. We have the coastal erosion, we have saltwater intrusion, we have as well a lot of the places that we are seeing, such as Mayaro, for example, Manzanilla, for example, where the government has intervened to deal with these impacts. So that is what we are seeing, the impacts throughout, but the reason to focus on Icacos is because of the nature of the area. We have this coastal community that seems to be forgotten about, but that is not the reality, because by doing the research, I am able to now see that things have been happening, but it may not be at the pace that we require.
And you are there to be their voice now.
Yes.
Hopefully with your research and when you present your document to the university. But what does the data, I mean, you've been collecting data about Icacos and again, long-term climate risk. What do you kind of foresee, plan, or from your data that you have collected?
So We have plans in place for the region, and these are with what if scenarios. So what if the place gets hotter? What if there are increasing storms? What if more coastal erosion occurs? What if sargassum seaweed gets worse? So based on these what if scenarios, this can be applied to the other regions as well. And in terms of the long-term climate risk, if we take this do nothing approach, which we seem to be doing a lot of, then Icacos would be in a more vulnerable position later on. And we are trying to reduce that. We are trying to increase resilience, how fast the community can adapt, how they can bounce back from different impacts, how we can help persons as well.
And this brings me, as you're talking about how we don't leave them there, what policy planning or national impact has on it, and what you think immediate actions should government agencies take to protect Icacos?
In terms of protection of Icacos, I think that the first thing that needs to be done is education. We have this National Adaptation Plan for Trinidad and Tobago.
And that's what the NAP stands for.
Yes, and with this plan, this was actually what we expect to happen by the year 2100. We expect our temperature to increase further, up to 3.6 degrees Celsius.
We already feel the heat, literally speaking now.
Yes, we do, and it is expected to go up.
Wow.
We also expect that rainfall would increase by a little, 7 millimeters, but it will also decrease.
And you have it on the slide there again, that same
Yes.
slide, you talk about the rainfall.
Yes.
It's going to increase, decrease, you say?
Yes, so
Wow.
we see a small increase, but
Okay.
the decrease is a lot, 40 millimeters. So areas such as the southwestern part of Trinidad, where Icacos is located, where we have seen drying happening of the wetlands, it might get worse over time.
Wow.
The sea surface temperatures would also increase. And the thing about sargassum likes warm water in order to thrive. So when our monthly rainfall increases and we have runoff from fertilizers into the sea, coupled with this now warm temperature, what we expect is that the sargassum or the algal blooms would increase over time. And this will now make it even worse for the fisher folk who have to go out with their boats.
Ah, boy. You know, it's sounding really bad there, but this is the fact. And this is happening to Trinidad and Tobago. Rainfall, sometimes we have sudden spurts of rain, no rain, and we used to say we have wet and dry season. I think that is also changing as well, right? How can national climate policy better support remote communities like Icacos?
So with our national climate policy, there is a trust towards education of persons. There is the involvement of non-governmental organizations and community-based groups to implement educational measures. And our climate policy can also help in terms of getting the available support for funding. So we have different things in place, such as the Green Fund. So if a community group, such as the Icacos Village Association, which is currently in existence.
Yeah, okay.
There are over 30 members, because while I was doing my research, they were an instrumental part of being in the workshops. They have a lot of support in terms of persons on the ground in Icacos, but they need a little bit of direction. If they know how to access funding, if they know how to get other groups in the area involved, if they know what projects they can work on with funding, this can help the persons in the area.
So hold that thought. We will be taking a short break and we'll be right back. We're talking about climate change in Icacos with Shivani Ramcharita, a PhD candidate at UWI St. Augustine.
Fruitopia, the drink that rocks your lunchtime. Fruitopia, Fruitopia, it's a drink that's hot. The citrus punch, fruit punch tastes nice. Guava, pineapple, that give me a vibe. first when it comes to the test. Perfect thing for my lunch. Flavors pack a punch. Fruitopia, Fruitopia. It's a drink that's hype. The citrus punch, fruit punch tastes nice. Fruitopia, the drink that rocks your lunchtime.
Try our new passion fruit flavor today. Taste the passion.
Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Eh Habib Khuda, Ahmad Mujtaba. Eh Habib Khuda, Ahmad Mujtaba. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
Never too early, never too late to recharge and hydrate. Get your daily dose the right way. Grab a Oasis, now why wait? Never too early, never too late to recharge and hydrate. Get your daily dose the right way. Grab a Oasis, now why wait? The greatest, the safest, Oasis for sure. Oasis, it's purer than pure.
Welcome back. You're watching The Right Fit on IBN with Shivani Ramcharita, a PhD candidate at University of the West Indies, St. Augustine. And before the break, we talked about communities, and I would like to probe a little bit. She said there are communities, or there is a community there, NGO, and their role. But what role usually, like NGOs, other NGOs, schools, what role do you see them, and local government play in building that resilience that you would want for Ikakas?
So in terms of, I'll start with the schools. So schools are pivotal for communities. They are the ones with the first instance of education for different members, not only for the students who are there, but for the parents who would hear at the end of the day what their child has done in school.
Right.
So they would learn, even if they didn't have that educational experience, they would learn from their children as well. So schools, in terms of the educational impact, what we have also is the non-governmental organizations. If they go into communities such as Ikakas and they work with the local community groups such as the Ikakas Village Association, they would be able to now help persons in the area build their own resilience. They will be able to work on, let's just give, for example, a mangrove planting exercise. They can work with the community to plant mangroves, and also this would be able to help the biodiversity of the region. It will be something what we refer to as a soft engineering approach, where we are not building a seawall, but we are building a living wall of mangroves to help the area.
And you could, at this time, just go into it, why mangroves are so important.
Well, mangroves are important, since it's a fishing community, for fisheries, which are where the little baby fish go.
Correct.
They stay there for a little while until they get bigger, and then they move out into the open water. So mangroves are super, super important for that. They also help to protect the coastline. So when big waves are coming, they will dissipate the waves, meaning break up the strong waves, so that will now shelter the coastline. We also have, if you all know about mangrove root structures, it's something
roots.
like this.
Yep.
Yes. And this helps to trap sediment or trap the soil, so it will also provide a place that soil can be kept now instead of all of the soil washing away, because the carcass has what we call alluvial material. All of the material which washes down away from the Orinoco River comes and it deposits where the carcass is located. So geologically, that is why we say that the entire area is basically mud. And that is why we have mud volcanoes.
Correct.
And other areas that we are seeing for that entire area is located in a very low lying area. So this is another reason why mangroves are important. So it won't only protect the fishes, it won't only protect the shoreline, but it can also help in terms of building of the shoreline as well and protecting the land that we already have.
And you know, I want to go back to the local group there. I'm sure you would have interacted with them. And I mean, not going to, what is their focus? What are they focusing on in Icacos as you are doing your research there?
So I would say that at the local community level, they focus on their cultural activities. They may see what is happening in terms of the area with climate change, because some of the villagers who are in the group came to the workshops. The older ones are interested in the changes, but the younger ones, they are more interested in what can the community bring for them. And this is not really the way we want to approach things. We want to see how we can work together in the community using the natural resources that we have. So that is the approach we need to take.
And what about local government? Any interaction, impact, help?
So my research sought to bring together different groups. And
good.
we had some of the persons from the Ministry of Community Development. They came down and they would have spoken to members of the Icacos community groups as well, and they would have shared their contact information with each other in order to get more information about the region, and that is a start. The collaboration is there. So we look to see what can happen in the future. Because of the Icacos resilience plan that they would have created, things can happen in the future, it can happen in the present time in order to help the community, but we need everyone to work together.
Correct. And I think you had a picture where you did some workshop with the community. Can you give us a little more details what these workshops entailed?
Yes, so these were some workshops that I had done with the communities in terms of, firstly, educating persons about climate change. So it was held at the Icacos Government Primary School, and I would like to say a special thank you to the principal of that school as well, who was so
accommodating.
The best host in terms of accommodation to use the school facilities, because that school is located close to the two sites, which is the Coral Point where we are experiencing erosion, as well as Icacos Point where it's experiencing accretion or the buildup. And what we had, persons went out into the field, they saw the erosion for themselves. One of the persons who was there actually had said that how he felt it in his heart, because you would think that, as I said from before, climate change is something that happens out there, but it's not that. Climate change is happening now, it is real, it is here, and we need to move towards doing something about it. And he had said how his paws raised because it was such an emotional experience. I don't know if you would have been aware, but prior to the 1930s, Icacos was the place to be. Teddy Roosevelt had actually visited the area.
Okay.
If you look at the old census documents, a lot of the persons who lived in Icacos were dressmakers. And you might wonder, why would be people making dresses? Because every week there was an event.
Wow.
So Icacos had a mansion, they had a light railway in the community that would have carried the coconuts from the different estates to the steamer boats, which would have then transported it elsewhere. So there was a lot of things happening in the region of Icacos. However, due to climate change, I would say this has changed things a bit.
And the history of Icacos is absolutely incredible. I'm now hearing about these. In your interaction with them, do they know about this then? What their history is like? Or who shares it with them?
Well, that's the thing, because the older persons are now dying out, for lack of a better word, and the younger ones are moving out. The history is now not being lost, but it is being put to other use. So for example, if we go on the beach and we walk on the beach, you would see railway tracks that they would have used to help to protect the coastline, because they used that as steel, and they would have put different boulders which they brought from Granville to make makeshift seawalls. But the thing about adaptation is when you do something somewhere, this can lead to something called maladaptation, which is, yes, we put a seawall to protect this area, but by putting the seawall here, it pull all of the sand from there now and carry it to another location. So you end up with a hole where Icacos Beach is.
Wow.
So that is the thing about climate change impacts. Because the coastline is so dynamic and it is changing, we have to use engineers. We have to use people with the expertise and not just put things in place and hope that it works, because the cost in the long term would be even worse.
And this, a hard question here now that you talk about engineers and your research and the community. What impact, or how would you be able to get people on board, very hard question, to help this community?
Well, that is exactly what my research is about. Because it is not only educating the community members about what is occurring, but with the participatory planning approach, it is to bring together the different stakeholder groups. So we would have had persons from Ministry of Works Coastal Protection Unit. We had persons from the Ministry of Community and Culture and Development. There were also persons from Ministry of Planning who were present as well. Excellent. We had experts from the university. We also had persons who were remarkable people, meaning they are involved in climate change work across the Caribbean.
Right.
And all of them made it their business, and they were present in the workshops to meet with the fisher folk, meet with the persons who were there, and now work together with those persons to come up with the best plans for the area. And as I say, by having everybody walk along the beach, I showed them where the railway was. They saw the brick factory that was present there.
There was a brick factory?
Yes, so there was actually a brick factory in the estate that they used to manufacture the bricks, and they now use that as part of the seawall. It's those red bricks that you would see, and they also had ballast bricks, which they would have used for ships. So all of these things have been now being used to protect the coastline.
Wow, a rich history, which may be another discussion, to show our Trinidad and Tobago audience what was in Icacos then. And now, because of this climate change, we are having all these problems. Let me ask you another hard question. If you could implement one major climate adaptation project in Icacos tomorrow, what will that be?
If I had to do it tomorrow using the resources that we have today, it will be a mangrove planting exercise. Because yes, the education and awareness will be there, but I would like the people involved, not only the community, but all the different groups in the southern part of Trinidad, because we don't only have the impacts in Icacos. And by persons physically doing things, get your hands dirty, get involved. Because education is one thing, awareness is one. We could talk a lot, but action is where
it tells, it impacts.
Tells, and
Yes.
it is required.
And that's what we want from our whole country, not only Icacos, that we have in Mayaro, we have by the creek.
Yes, by the Godino swamp.
Going out to the sea. Yes, so that's one important thing, as we, and this program is all about education, hence why you are here sharing your research, sharing your information to the public out there, so they can make wise decisions after, and help, and put a hand, as you say, we call it hands-on, get on in there. And as you say, mangrove are important, because the same thing is happening to the Caroni swamp in terms of mangrove, cutting and destroying mangroves. We had part in Godino down there, the mangrove being destroyed. And we heard from you all the uses of mangrove. And I think maybe we had to do a whole session for Trinidadians to understand the uses and the value of mangrove. From awareness to action, I always say.
That is an excellent point. From awareness to action. Because when we have persons involved, they will not only be aware, but when they take a certain role with things and they take ownership of it,
correct,
then we have something in terms of their own transformation. Their mindset would change.
That's the biggest problem in Trinidad, actually, if we talk about litter, about anything, to change the mindset of people, their thinking. To think, if I throw the plastic bottle out there, what it does to the whole country. You know, no, that's okay, one bottle, but one bottle add up to millions, clogging the waterways. Sorry for deviating a little bit, but I had to make that point.
No,
the mindset.
That is also part of my research. Because with climate change education, my approach had looked at using something called a universal design for learning. I was not only catering for persons who could read or write. I used an approach where we went on the beach. Although you are not supposed to hold sargassum because of the heavy metals in it, and that can impact person's skin.
Okay.
We had persons walking along the beach. They got to see a tree root of a mango tree compared to a tree root of a coconut tree. So even if it didn't mean anything to look at slideshow presentations, they could walk along the beach, they could see the impacts, they could touch the water, they could have this experience. We call it experiential learning.
Yeah.
And with experiential learning, using a universal design for learning, that is where you cater to different approaches in terms of persons' mindset, where they are at now, what they could learn, and how they could move towards changing for the future. And that is known as transformative learning.
Excellent.
So transformative learning was one of my outputs from the workshop, because I had been a teacher.
Of course.
I know that, yes, you may teach something today, but it might go in one ear, come out the next, unless there is an exam. With climate change, our exam is what we do. So my approach, bringing in the climate change education, wasn't only for the residents. It was for all of the parties who were involved, to see how best they could change their own mindsets in terms of a universal design for learning approach. And we have something called a disorienting dilemma. in transformative learning. What that means is that it shocks your system.
Correct.
So when that resident had gone out and he said that he felt it in his heart, when you feel something in your heart, that would be that would be your disorienting dilemma. And then when he went back into the workshop and we said, so what can you do now to deal with this impact? He had an active approach.
You see, he
he
felt
wanted
it.
to be
He
involved. So that is what I want as well.
Okay. Now we are coming very close to the end. What gives you hope when you look at ICACUS in the future?
Beyond the environment, my hope lies with the people, because people are the stewards of the environment. And my message to Trinidad and Tobago based on this is that climate change is everyone's responsibility. We all need to work together in a participatory approach where we collaborate with each other. Trinidad and Tobago has a wealth of information. We have some of the smartest people on planet Earth located in this country.
Yes.
Because when you go and you look and you see those professionals out there. For example, we have scientists who are in NASA. We have persons who are out there who are the pioneers in their field. I saw an urban planning forum where one of the persons was talking for Sweden from Trinidad and Tobago.
See?
So we have this wealth of persons, a wealth of experience. We have persons who can come up with innovative ideas. And people say that small island developing states are at a disadvantage.
Of course, because we're vulnerable because of who we are. Yes.
But we are the most resilient.
Yeah.
We may be vulnerable, but persons from the Caribbean dust their socks off, dust their shoulders off, and they get back up and they get things done. So one thing that we would have seen for Hurricane Melissa, which would have impacted Jamaica, they bounced back so fast. And Hurricane Katrina, which would have impacted the US, they would have still been grappling with this. So what this has shown us is that we get back up, but we don't only get back up, we get back up stronger. So us in the Caribbean region, and especially in Trinidad and Tobago, because of our nature of our country, the type of approach that we take to things, Trinidadians are excellent in terms of when they come together. And this can be shown in anything that we do.
Teamwork makes dream work, as you say, when we work together. So in conclusion, I know you have some credits, and I would really like for the slide to come up, because I really want to thank your supervisor, Dr. Julia Kotzebu. So go ahead.
So I would like to thank the community of ICACUS, of which my research would not be possible, the participants in the research from the various organizations, citizen groups, as well as the governmental and non-governmental organizations. A special mention again to my PhD supervisor, Dr. Julia Kotzebu, as well as the department of which I am a part of, Geomatics, Engineering and Land Management, which would have supplemented all of my work that I would have done in terms of the GIS work, finding out about ICACUS, seeing that it is a low-lying area, coming up with the different scenarios, because all of this works together. This is about data-driven decision-making for the community, with the community, and with everyone involved.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being here and my guest and sharing your information from your research, and especially, again, thanks to your supervisor for allowing you to participate in this discussion. Okay, so folks, this brings us to the end of this discussion this evening. Once again, thanks to Almighty God for this opportunity. Thank you, viewers, for joining us here. Much appreciation to my guest, Shivani Ramcharita, and your supervisor. Thanks for sharing some of your research work. All the best in the future. Thanks to the management and staff of IBN, especially Brother Sadiq and Siddiqa behind the scene. Join us again on Monday at 8 p.m. with a rerun on Saturday at 5 p.m. Drop us a line if you would like to make a contribution or you would like to be part of this program. Call us at 680-9635 or 645-4426. You have a question or anything you want to be part of this forum, please free to get us there. If you can't see this on the cable, you can view this program on YouTube or Facebook. Assalamu alaikum. Good night.
For the everyday lowest prices on all grocery items, trust Low Cost Supermarket for the widest variety of quality